Welcome into the Common Dad podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I am yet again your host, Justin Matthew Gray. This is also season 4, Justin Matthew Gray, and I am, of course, joined by my co-host, Andrew Holland. How are you doing, this fine co-host? What would you like me to call you?
I don't know, Supreme
like
Lord and Commander. Just
rolls off the tongue quite nicely. What are you drinking on this evening?
This is just one of the cheap bourbons off the bar. I don't know. I have a number of them that are just kind of inexpensive.
You don't even
just
look.
Pour it and
don't even look anymore.
Yeah,
it's all the same, right? Once you've
had one or two, matter. I don't really do the nicer bourbons after one or two because you're kind of starting to lose the edge.
Let me ask you a question. You're a bourbon guy.
More of a Scotch guy.
You're a bourbon guy for
bourbon,
sure. Oh God, that's exactly what a bourbon guy was. I'm more of a Scotch guy. Okay. Anyway, we already did the "What's the Difference" episode, and I don't remember. I just know Scotch tastes worse than bourbon. That's
is that what it is?
It burns. That's the difference. Scotch is bad bourbon.
Wow.
Welcome to the comment. Anyway,
a lot of comments on that.
Oh yeah. I hope so. I hope we do. Let me ask you this. You're a Scotch guy.
Sure.
But during the summertime, don't get me wrong, I prefer some bourbon, some Scotch. I love it. But when it's really hot outside, do you still go there? Because I do not like the dark water when it's hot outside.
There are ways to do it. Number one, you cool it down a little bit, and to that point, you're not using your expensive bourbons to ice them down.
Sure.
So yeah, bourbon or Scotch on the rocks, not too bad. Still kind of an evening drink. You're not going to do it at like 2 o'clock, in the afternoon when the sun is still out and it's still really hot out.
Right.
There's a lot of different bourbon-based cocktails you can do, though, that are very refreshing, like bourbon lemonades and bourbon teas. And I've been looking up a few recipes for this summer to see what I can find that could be enjoyable on a vacation, things like that.
What about a little tequila? Do you like that when the summertime
I'm not
rolls
as
around?
big on the tequilas. I have tried to get into them.
Yeah.
I haven't given them their due justice yet. So maybe at some point I'll try harder. But at the moment, bourbon's just easy. Whiskey's easy.
Maybe we should do a tequila tasting episode. You and I buy about 5 bottles of tequila, and we take 2 glasses, so we get a good of each.
I just thought we were going to finish all 5 bottles in one night.
What is a solid? Maybe we need to make this a permanent segment.
We need to do an offensive tequila episode where we pick all of the cheap, crappy tequilas that have celebrity names on them, and then we rate them at the top of the charts.
Like the Rock's tequila.
It's the best thing out there. It's nothing better.
It's the best ever. I've heard the Rock's tequila is good, but then again, everything the Rock ever does is fantastic, and it's the best thing of all time.
I've heard people who aren't tequila drinkers say that it's good. Anybody who's a tequila drinker does not say it's good. Doesn't like it. They literally throw the bottle in the trash.
Doesn't Ryan Reynolds have a tequila too?
No, he has a gin. He has aviation gin.
A gin. That's right. There's another celebrity there's a lot of celebrities that have a tequila. But I think this summer I'm going to dive into some tequila and see if we can, because I've heard if you get like a good tequila, it's not your college tequila. It's not Patron. It's not, is it Jose Cuervo? Is that
Jose Cuervo's out there?
Like, is that a tequila? Yeah, so stay away from those. I've heard like the good ones.
No, you want to go with
Jose
there's
Cuervo's.
So many different names of tequilas out there, and that's where like I've tried to get into them, and there's so many different ones, and there's so much research that goes into where each one was founded and the history behind it, and
oh gosh, yeah,
they're all completely different.
It's all too much for me to care about.
I
just want to know if it tastes good.
Old really quick.
You know how at like Costco and Sam's Club on Fridays they give out free samples? I think they should do that at liquor stores. So
some stores will do tastings.
Know what you're getting into.
If you sign up for member lists on like ABC, like if you have an ABC wine and spirits near you, a lot of times I want to say that they
give it a shot.
ABC, call us because I'm completely speaking without any knowledge of whether you actually do this or not.
Yeah, call us and sponsor us.
Yeah, there you go.
Do both.
I believe they
Mhm.
do
Common
wine
Dad, brought to you by
tastings at
ABC.
least, if not whiskey tastings as well.
I could do that. I would like
And you
that.
know what?
So this
Actually,
summer,
I
let's
have
do
gone
this.
in there on a few occasions to pick some things up, and I've seen vendors in there, not necessarily ABC, but I've seen vendors
that before.
in there
They give you little airplane
doing
bottles, you know. Yep.
No, I mean, this
All right,
wasn't
so
the
if
bottles. This
you're-
was full on. They had a bunch of little
They're
plastic
giving the
shot
full out-
glasses, and they were
Okay.
checking IDs, and
Oh, just
you could.
shooting right there.
Well, you're
I love
sampling
that.
it.
That's
You're
great.
sampling whatever the drink
Yeah.
is. But yeah, pretty much.
That's what I'll tell my wife when I come home 4
Granted,
hours
I
later
do
from the
live in
liquor
Florida,
store.
and we do
I
things
wasn't-
differently here.
I wasn't taking shots. I was sampling. It's classy. Jeez.
Florida's a bit different.
So, all right, that's what I'm going to do. Florida's a lot different from everywhere in the whole world.
Florida's the real
I
America.
am going to. It's something. It's certainly something. On the 4th of July, it's certainly the MVP. There's no doubt about that. 4th of July, Florida wins the internet. All right, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try some tequilas this summer, and I'll get back to you. We'll see what we think. If you're listening to this and you are a tequila person, let me know. Give me some guidance here. I've got nothing. The last time I drank tequila was probably a sophomore in college, and I'm sure it didn't end well. Speaking of drinking, let's talk about wedding regrets.
Ooh,
Let's talk about that.
I didn't think that
um,
was what the title
So
was.
I'll just write off. Oh, that's what we're calling wedding regrets, or I regret my wedding. Cut that up. Put that in there. That's perfect. So right off the bat, we don't regret who we married, right?
Yep.
We're safe there. Okay, good. Agreed. All right. Everything after
Clarification.
that. Everything after that.
After the wedding?
What do we regret? Now, for
this is why that
a
title
little
just doesn't
context
do here,
on
man.
this.
It's not about after
Well,
the
I want to
wedding.
make it as volatile as possible. Right. It's during the wedding. It's the actual
it's a wedding
ceremony
redo.
and
It's not
reception.
a regret.
It's
a wedding redo.
Which isn't that what a regret is? A redo? Like it's the same thing. It's the same thing.
I don't know.
As long as you would do it different. So this came about. We were chatting a while ago, and we were just kind of, I don't even know how we got into the conversation. We were talking about weddings, and like obviously we have a larger scope of things now than when we did when we were first getting married, as like what's important and what's not. And come to our surprise, we had a lot of things that we would tweak, I would say, about the wedding, and
Well, so
maybe not even tweak,
We-
fully change.
we both attended a wedding not too long ago, and we just recently came up on
Correct.
the 1-year anniversary of that person's wedding, and we were talking with that person, and we were saying,
That's what it was.
you've been married
That's what
for
it was.
1 year. You've now crossed this hurdle that is a very large hurdle and takes a lot of planning
Sure.
and a lot of money and a lot of resources and time and energy and effort and blood and sweat and tears and all these things that go into planning a wedding. You're a year on the other side of it.
Mhm.
Would you do anything different? And this person kind of flipped
Yep.
it around on us and was like, well, you guys are both past the 10-year mark. What would you do
Right.
different? And we're like, oh crap.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a, and I wouldn't
Turns out
say
a
there's
lot.
a lot we would do different. There's certainly a list. And I think some of that just comes
They're
with,
not all big
with
things.
time. And so I think
Right.
you have to clarify that, like, anything that we would change just because personalities change, I feel like maybe you should remove from this. So it's like, if you have a different
True.
best friend now, 10 years after your wedding, than you did when
Right.
you were
You
getting
can't
married,
count
that doesn't
Yeah.
count. Like, you're still going to have
Right.
a friend
Right,
be
yeah.
your best man or whatever that is.
Yes.
That's fine.
Right.
These would be more
I
like
agree. I agree.
style changes to the wedding. Things that
Sure.
you spent a lot of time and energy
So-
and effort planning or specifically wanting in your wedding that now you look back and go, man,
Mm-hmm.
I thought that would work. And looking back on it, probably should have gone with this other thing.
So I'll start it off with this. We've talked about several times on this show about there are some things that you want to be cheap on and can save money on. And there's some things you don't want to. For example, toilet paper. Go ahead and get the better toilet paper. It's going to be worth it. So we made the mistake of, we were on a budget, as most people are during a wedding. We are on a relatively small budget, but it is what it is. We made it happen. The time came to choose a DJ, and I believe we paid this gentleman $500. And I thought, first of all, that's cheaper than I thought. And then my second thought was, how hard could it possibly be to be a DJ? Like, how bad could he screw this thing up? Well,
I think the assumption going into it usually is just that it's just an iTunes playlist. And I don't even know that iTunes playlists are really a thing nowadays. That I'm dating myself here just by saying iTunes playlist. Nobody has iTunes anymore. But at the time,
right,
my thought, because we got married 7 months apart.
Pretty close.
My thought was, it's an iTunes playlist. You pick the best songs, you throw them in a playlist, you hit play, and you hit shuffle, the playlist. What am I paying this guy for? Like, okay, to bring speakers and a laptop and some cables and set it up. But that's about it. It's actually a little bit more. It's,
now that I've been, because when I was married, I'd probably only been to your wedding and then, I don't know, a handful, just a couple more, but not a lot. But the DJ is kind of the lifeblood of the party. If you get a crap DJ, your reception could suck.
They can
really sway the night
at the party. The amount of energy your attendees exert is proportionally related to the DJ. The music he's playing, the microphone, his emceeing skills, things like that. And that's where, some people
producer
don't
is
even go the
reminding
DJ
me that
route. They go with like an MC and they do like a band.
Right.
It's a strong
the
play.
Live band.
It's a much more expensive plan.
Been to a live band. It's a good time.
It is a good time. I'm sure it's a bit more expensive to put 4 or 5 people on the stage than one.
I would imagine so. Our DJ missed every possible cue that you could miss, including the entrance to my wife walking down the aisle. He missed when we kiss, he missed that one. When we were leaving, he missed that one. And then, I don't know, I think he was using CDs on a horrible computer. And even when he did hit the cues, the songs would skip. And halfway through the reception, it started to sprinkle, and he was like, I gotta go.
It wasn't really a sprinkle. I was there.
It ended up working out.
It was a torrential downpour in South Florida.
It did pour.
Okay,
but question. If you're a DJ, I don't know, but if you get booked for an outside wedding in South Florida, should you not be prepared for some elements?
You should be prepared for some elements. So here's where I get into some of it. And I think a lot of this goes into everybody's energy and effort on the pre-planning side. And it's tough to say because
Touche.
There's so much that has to be planned for a wedding, and that's where wedding planners can really come into play. Not that I'm saying you need a wedding planner, but they certainly take a lot of elements off of your plate because you're adding a person's time and their energy and effort. You only have so much time and energy that you can put out into planning this thing, and depending on the amount of time, how long your engagement is, you might not have the time for it, but realistically, you should go interview your DJ. And realistically, you should probably interview 2 or 3 or 4 DJs, regardless of the price. Don't even get into the price at the beginning. Just go interview 4 different DJs.
Just get a feel for them.
Get a feel for them, their personalities, their style. Then you can start getting into their setup. And if possible, even do follow-up interviews where maybe you both go to the venue and you scope it out and you say, here's the venue. Here's where we're going to set up. Here's where we're going to do this. Here's where, if they're doing the wedding and the reception, hey, we're going to be on the beach for this part. Do you have battery-powered speakers that we can use on a beach? Because there's no power outlets out on a beach. Let's make sure we have that before we doing that. It's called like a site survey, but doing a site survey or a site visit allows your DJ to look at this and go, okay, I don't have weather rated speakers and you're putting these out in the middle of a field. Maybe I need to go get something that's okay for the elements or some trash bags or something.
A tarp.
You know,
I don't know.
You can have these
anyway,
conversations.
He left.
But it takes time. You have to have time and energy to go do those pre-planning things. But honestly, it does pay out in the end because, like you said, if your DJ sucks, everybody's going to kind of talk about it. Like that's going to be the talking point of your wedding.
Luckily, we got saved by, I don't know who, somebody had an iPod and it worked out because the guy did leave. And it did rain pretty hard late into the evening, but we kept it going. And so that's what I got. DJ, what do you have? Do you have a list?
I don't have a list.
Do you have thoughts? Or do you want me to just go off mine?
I'm happy to go off yours. The number one thing I think I would change if we were going back, we used a specific venue for the ceremony and then we went somewhere else for the reception. I probably wouldn't do it that way now. Having people transport from two different venues in South Florida traffic and time and energy and effort and all these different things. We also did a summer wedding, so we did do it inside. Being that we're in South Florida, it's been a major part of our lives. It's where we met, all these different things. It might, like, I've attended a few beach weddings now. I think I probably would try to find a venue near the beach or with a really nice outdoor area that we could do something outdoors. And specifically a venue that could do the ceremony and the reception where we're not trying to book multiple different venues at the same time. Keep it simple.
That kind of brings me in. That's almost my overwhelming. I wish I would have, and ours was relatively simple, but there's even looking back, I wish we would have even dumbed it down even more and allocated money where, hey, we only have X amount of dollars for DJ and this, but it's like, yeah, but who gives a shit about the cake? Let's get a cheap cake. Nobody cares. Let's give $1,000 more. Let's hire a good DJ, something like that. But yeah, keeping it simple. We kept ours, I felt like, pretty simple. It was all in the same spot, which was nice. It was all pretty much compact and right there. But yeah, I have been to some weddings. Yours was just the one car ride, which from my perspective, for the from somebody wedding party, we paid for. But I can imagine planning a limo. It was not fun.
But that was also an added complication. So we transported the wedding party from one venue to the next. But the problem was the entire wedding party drove to the first venue. And then when the limo dropped them off at the second venue, their cars weren't there. Now what do you do? Our reception went late into the night. So again, two venues added a lot of complication, added a lot of challenges.
Sure did.
And ultimately looking back, the first venue we specifically chose because it was a memory for both of us. And looking back on it, I think we let that memory influence our decision more than it should have. We should have chosen a venue for the new memory that we were making rather than looking back and saying, oh, well, this place means something to us, so let's create a new memory here. We should have just said, we're making a new memory. This is our wedding. Let's go pick the best wedding venue. We tried to go backwards, and I wouldn't do that. That would be the thing I would change.
Yes, I would also, and this is hard to say. I have known a couple who, and this has probably happened to more people, just kind of along the same vein as like where your venue is, like, but also be fully aware of who is actually marrying you. In your guys' example, you picked a fantastic person.
Well, thank you.
In our example, we picked the guy we got was great too. Adam was funny. He was great, light on his feet. He was able to tap dance when there were some laws. It's perfect. I, however, know a couple who moved to a new city and attended a new church and had a pastor there that they kind of knew and kind of didn't do the wedding for them. And they're still married. They have a kid. It's all great. But in their wedding photos, they have to look back at a pastor who was like almost went to jail for some really not good stuff, like some sexual abuse stuff at the workplace stuff. And it's like, that guy's in all your pictures, man. Like, so if you're gonna get married, well, when you're picking who's marrying you, really know the person. Well, really be aware. Like, have a strong background.
So
if you haven't known the person for more than like
that, because
3 years,
as much as I agree with you, you never know what the other person, what these people are.
Sure.
And that's where I would say, okay, you're never going to truly know somebody. I mean, look, so you brought up the example of a pastor. Some of these pastors are pastors of these massive churches, and they go on for 20, 30 years doing ministry and building up huge churches. And yes, there is some dark in their past or in their some secrets in their folder.
Never saw it coming. I'm sure.
And nobody sees that coming. I mean, look at how long they've been doing this. Nobody sees those secrets coming out. So you don't necessarily know that. And that's why I would say the trick then is make sure you take a variety of pictures. Sit down and discuss every possible arrangement of pictures.
That's a great call.
You know, I recently went to a wedding where they were trying to take all these different family pictures and whatnot, and there's family that maybe you're not as close to, and so you feel obligated. You're taking the family photos, and so it's like everybody's in the photo, but you're closer with one than another, and it's like, well, but that's kind of awkward. And so it's like at the end of the day, if you just go through and strategically pair up all these different combinations, you can kind of
all the combos, man,
hide and finagle taking the different varieties of shots, and then which ones you choose to post and use and save and keep, that's up to you. But if you take the combination, maybe you take a picture with the family you're close with, and then you take a picture with the family you're not so close with, and then you take a picture with all of the families together. And now nobody knows what you're going to do with them. You're taking pictures.
Sure. Yeah.
And if the one that you're not as close with never makes it onto Facebook, who cares? Nobody's really going to go back and really dissect all the different combinations and say, oh, well, this one picture you didn't take. In which case, blame it on the photographer.
Exactly. So I have another photography tip.
Take one without the pastor, and that way when the pastor comes out as a pedophile, diddling, sex crazed, homophobic, you can just use the picture that doesn't have him in it.
Right. There was this isn't a regret because this didn't happen at my wedding. However, this was a very savvy move by my older brother at my youngest brother's wedding, where he had a very serious girlfriend with him, knows the family very well, and we were all taking photos. And he was my brother's a little older, so like there's not a lot of tap dancing between this relationship. They've both been around the block. They know what's going on. And he was like, hey, why don't you step out of the picture just in case you don't make it? And she gladly hopped to the side. She would just hop in and hop out. And she completely understood. And it was perfectly fine, because you don't want to look back at a family photo and you're like, oh yeah, she didn't make the cut. Like, it's not the end of the world, but now have that conversation maybe before you get there, because that could really blow up in your face.
If you're going to ask your brother to do that, yes, you should probably have that conversation, because maybe your brother's thinking this thing's going to last, and you're like, well, you're not married yet, so I don't know if your relationship's going to last.
Let's be sure.
So I would like you to have a conversation with your missus beforehand and say, hey, we're going to take one with and without you. Once you're married, if you were love you, but hey, here's the deal.
Exactly. And it wasn't my older brother's wedding, so it's not like it's not his to screw up.
Right.
So he had a duty to do so. So I've got one last one, and I think it's the biggest one.
So let me buy some time for you.
Please do.
The only other thing that I can really think of is that we spent a lot of time trying to make other people happy at our wedding. The people we chose, the number of bridesmaids and groomsmen we chose, the best man maid of honor combinations, who was walking with who, and in what order were we walking?
Oh my gosh!
Which songs are we doing? And we're doing this dance, and we're doing that dance, and we need to do these dances, and we need to do this thing, and we need to do the dollar dance, and we need to do this thing, and we spent so much time we were both members of kind of a large church. We had a lot of friends. We have a lot of family. So this immediately turned into, well, if we invite so-and-so, then we have to invite this person and we have to invite that person. And all of a sudden our guest list was 250 plus for the reception. The wedding, the venue we chose, again, going back to the venue we chose seats 2,500 people because it's the church we grew up in. And it's like, well, if you take 300 people and put them in a 1,500, 2,000 seat room or whatever, like, it's just going to look like a puny group of people. So it's like, again, like, we tried to make all these people happy with every decision we made and everything we were deciding on. And it's like, at the end of the day, I really wish we had just chosen, like, not even all the family, just been like, hey, we're going to do a small little intimate gathering on the beach. It's just going to be a couple of us, our closest friends, immediate family, grandparents. And we're going to do a small little thing and a reception at a bar afterwards, like a nice restaurant bar where we're going to reserve the private room or something small. We tried to make so many people. Yeah. Real nice family dinner.
Chili's, something like that.
We tried to make so many other people happy at our wedding. We ignored all of our own preferences and desire. Like it was all about trying to make the wedding happy for everybody else as we spent all of our money.
Right.
It's like, shouldn't be that way.
I had down worry less as one of mine, and everything you just said. Remember, it's your wedding. You do what you want. And if you offend somebody, great news. You don't have to come. Go ahead and just click on that little link on the RSVP and let us know you're not going to be there. That's okay. No problem.
Well, and if you offend somebody by not inviting them, they're not going to be in the pictures. So who cares?
Right. It's problem solved. It's perfectly fine. Yeah. And nobody's going to remember what table you sat them at. Nobody's going to care because you're going to get it's none of it's going to matter. Now, if you do want to have a little fun, you can really try to make it uncomfortable for some people, figure out where you're placing them. Do
care less about other people. It's your day. It's your party.
Leave the worrying up to the best man. I almost said the first lady.
Okay.
What's the woman version of the best man?
Maid of honor.
Maid of honor. I'm gonna go with first lady. That sounds classier. I did have a situation. You want to worry less, but you don't want to
care less.
To a point to where it's not good. I was at a wedding, and I'm not going to name names here, but this couple chose a friend to do the wedding, which I've seen before. This friend had not been in any sort of public speaking engagement ever.
Oh, no.
He had certainly never done a wedding. He was certainly not funny, and boy, he thought he was. And we went to the rehearsal, and this guy's doing his shtick, and I pulled my buddy aside and I was like, look, are you sure? Because this
not too late to change it.
Rough right now. He's like, no, he'll be fine. And I remember I said, look, you can get ordained online in 10 minutes. If you need me to do this, I won't mess it up. I'll be right from the book. Literally, this isn't going to go, oh no, it'll be fine. And it was something, but I offered. I was, are we sure this is what we want to do? And so just, so
the rehearsal was rough. How was the wedding?
Worry less, but fine.
There you go. It all worked out in the end.
This is what I'll say. Everybody knew that person, so it was kind of funny to everybody else. So I was like, all right, he didn't flatline and fall on his face completely, but it was fine. Okay, so the last thing I have is, and I kind of touched on this a little earlier, is allocate your money to where your honeymoon is way better than your wedding. We got to our honeymoon and had no money. And when I say no money, we were doing calculations on how much we had to put in the car, as far as gasoline goes, to get home. On the final day, we were in Orlando. We couldn't afford Disney tickets, so we went to Disney. I think it was still downtown Disney at the time, and we had no money for food We'd already burned up all of our gift cards from the wedding. We went through the little chocolate place they have down there. I can't remember the company. And they hand out, they hand out little chocolate squares. We walked through that line like 5 times, like a couple homeless people, just anything we can get. And the lady was like, "You guys have been here a couple times." We were like, "Yeah, we're on our honeymoon." And we're just, we told her, we're out of money. And she's like, "Oh, here." She gave us like a whole handful. So just don't be that on your honeymoon. Like if you're looking at your budget for your wedding and your honeymoon and you're like cutting corners on your honeymoon, but not on your wedding, no, cut the corners on the wedding. Have a great honeymoon. Do that. I know you guys balled out on your honeymoon. Do you regret that?
We did a sandals vacation on our honeymoon, and it was worth every penny. And I agree with you 100%. The honeymoon is more important than the wedding.
Yes.
The wedding is like a quick party. The honeymoon is a week, 2 weeks, depending on like what you're doing. I mean, it's like a week-long vacation. Definitely put money into that. Don't skimp out on that. That's a huge thing that can make or break the beginning of your marriage.
Yeah. I mean, we still had a good time as newly married couples do in a hotel room, but we didn't get to go anywhere nice to eat. We didn't get to do any of that. Like we literally coasted into town on fumes. Like, woo, we made it. So ball out for your honeymoon, man. It's worth it for sure. That's all I've got. Do you have anything else to add?
I think that's great. At the end of the day,
now we just got to figure out
it's your wedding. Do what you want. Don't worry about other people.
Yes.
Don't worry about making other people happy. Don't worry about doing a venue that has a special memory or something like that. Just and do your homework.
That works for everybody.
Do your homework. Like go and interview multiple people. Even if you can't afford the specific person, even if they post the price and you can't afford them, go interview them. Learn more by doing the interview with them, and then go apply that to other people and put them on a grading scale so that you can see like, oh, there you go. Like this person's out of my budget, but here's what they offer. And oh, look, I found this other person who's in my budget, but they still offer all these things.
Right. Get a frame of reference.
Maybe I'll go do that.
Yep. All right. Well, that is all we have. Hopefully you got a little something out of this. Add in your wedding regrets. Tag your significant other. We really want to hear these. They could be juicy. Try not to get too mean, or do. I don't care. It's fine. Thank you so much for listening. If you have listened, please don't forget to leave a review anywhere you're listening, Spotify, iTunes, wherever. Don't forget to go to the socials, Facebook at The Common Dad, Instagram, The Common Dad, and we are on the YouTubes as well. If you're watching, you already know. If you're listening, you can actually watch this production on the YouTube channel. Leave a comment, leave a subscription. We love all of it, and it's all free. So do it while it's free before we become megastars. Then we're going to have to charge. So is what it is. Thank you guys so much for listening. Let us know your regrets about your marriage. That's not worded correctly. Let us know what you would redo about your wedding. Let's say that. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time.